My name is Joyce Korir, a Kenyan Senator and the Vice Chair Parliamentary Service Commission. I'm a dedicated public servant, passionate about the development of our county and our country and our society through constructive efforts that start from grassroots level. Gender equality to me is about willingness for us to accommodate one another, to value one another, to celebrate one another's achievement or special giftings. In my continued years of life and service, it's becoming increasingly clear to me that attitudes we all hold on the subject of the gender and women empowerment are a direct result of our efforts to engage one another. Engaging each other involving speaking to one another, listening to each other, and giving everyone an opportunity to express their views and skills. When we engage each other without bias, we get to see the value in one another. Because we all have something unique to contribute to this world. Being willing to see the value in everyone's is the basis of inclusivity. As we give women the opportunity to express their contribution in the society, we are able to see the beauty of diversity. We are able to see additional viewpoints of life, additional styles of leadership, and additional ways of handling challenges. This is not only adds the spice of life, it also increases our chances of progress as a society. In participating in this gender equality and women empowerment GEWE program course has been a beneficial experience. This practical study has deepened my understanding of gender, leadership, and realities that shape women's experience in the society today. I particularly appreciated the engaging and interactive sessions that unpacked the real issues facing women in leadership. Through this course, I'm now more motivated to see more people in our society shift our attitudes of inclusivity. I have come to appreciate that women across the world, we face similar challenges. Through the different array of guest facilitators who carried us through each session, I realized that destructive attitudes need to be dealt with. It is so clear to me that there is hope through teamwork and consistent focus on policy implementation. We will change the narrative. Each discussion that we held during the session challenged me to think critically and to offer practical insights into how gender equality can move beyond policy statement to become active practice within organization and governance structures. With this program has been practical, relevant, and timely. The course has an approach that is inviting for solutions. For example, the course focused on the intersectional nature of challenges facing women revealed how gender inequality cannot be separated from issues within our societies. Poverty, education, health, and social norms all have contributory impact on what we face daily as women. This helps leaders to present multi-pronged solutions on how to approach the challenges of the day. One moment during the program that shifted my view on gender equality was the mental health session with Honorable Lisa McGill. It became clear that the challenges we face in Kenya are not only a national concern, they are global. I realized that the attitudes of the people across the world need to be keenly considered. We all need to engage one another without bias, whether in Ontario in Canada or in Bomet here in Kenya. Every citizen has a personal responsibility to choose to see the value in their fellow citizens. The challenges of negative attitudes was a personal element to its solution. Citizens have to choose for themselves to unlearn what is wrong and adapt what is progressive. I also learned from Lisa's lessons that as women, we should not allow negative attitudes to shake our mental health. It is important for us to place a community around us that helps us maintain our well-being. This is specifically true for us as leaders. People might be harsh or negative, but we can maintain our cause for justice in a way that it doesn't affect us the wrong way. this was an instrumental lesson that I gratefully learned. I think my parting shot is that I would want to thank the institution, the Center for Parliamentary Studies, for organizing this study, the members who participated in this study, the McGill University for facilitation of this session, the Secretariat, and the teaching team for their dedication to this course. And we are also looking forward to having more session and giving room to more honorable members and even our staff within the country and outside the country for proper interaction and sharing experience across the world. Thank you.
I'm Sabina Chege, currently nominated Member of Parliament, but I'm serving my third term in the National Assembly of Kenya. I've been elected as a women representative from Murang'a County, which is a central part of Kenya, from the year 2013 to year 2022. When I came back, I'm currently the whip of Jubilee Party. And at the same time, I serve in the parliamentary committees on Powers and Privilege and Agriculture Committee. Previously, I have chaired Health Committee, and I've also been a chair of Education Committee. The program served as an exposure of the different talents and abilities that we have, and especially as women. And we have different interests in different areas, apart from just the issues about gender, but also specific, very deep issues that people focus on. And what I learned most is that everybody has an ability and a special talent. And if women would come together and we make use of different capabilities and the capacities that we have, that we can go very far. If we are united together with what I know and what my other colleagues know, then we can come in together. We can change not only our country, but the world. I think it's the trivia that has been there, because it has been a beautiful, 13 years from the time we introduced the special seats for women in Parliament. And really women had to struggle so much and to put double effort to prove themselves that they can be able to sit on the same table with the men, and to prove that their position is just not in the kitchen to cook. And so, they say if you're not at the table, maybe you'll find yourself in the menu. But what I will say is that I am hoping that in the next few years, that women will not have to struggle so much to be elected. Based on the legislation, the kind of laws, the kind of bills that they'll come up with, based on the impact and the empowerment that they can do on the ground, and the changes that can be able to be seen, touching lives, going deeper to the issues that maybe men don't seem to appreciate. For instance, when I did my breastfeeding bill, it was interesting that a lot of men, they were amazed, like the whole hula baloo of why would anyone think about breastfeeding? It's to them, it might be an issue, but to us who have been mothers, to the women who have gone through the struggle, they appreciate such kind of a bill. So I am looking forward for a time when women will vie, and because of their merit, their capability, they can be elected without having to explain too much. Because sometimes, even in the politics, when you're doing campaigns, a woman would work 5 times harder than a man. And also, also appreciating that we are all leaders, we're all human. If a woman makes a mistake, it doesn't have to be taken out of proportion. We've seen a Chief Justice being told to resign because she pinched somebody's nose. But a men who have boxed, they have done everything, nobody talks about it. So with strong women in position, with women coming in and making the changes that we learned through this program, I'm foreseeing the future being very bright for women in Kenya. Currently, I want to pursue and go for elected position again come 2027. So the knowledge I've gained, especially in the matters of legislation that I'm going to pursue in Parliament, it is something that is going to have an impact and also give me at least a step forward, even as I go to the community. And so I will engage my people more. I have a very special interest with the young people, and I have discovered that a lot of programs that we have done before, they have been targeting the more mature voter. So you'll have the women groups, such kind of groupings, where you find the women who are much older. When we do bills that might be pertains to coffee, tea, who are the coffee farmers and tea, they are again our parents. But there is a special group, a group between 19 and 28, 29 years, that we seem not to have really figured out a very specific program for them. And so I'm going to pursue more on mentorship, listening to them more, bringing to them counselors, because there are challenges that there are challenges on drugs, there are challenges on early pregnancies, there are challenges of lack of employment, and they're all focused on this group, and that's why you hear sometimes a lot of noise. They have exposure to the social media, they have exposure to the digital platforms, so they have a lot of information, but how are they using the information that they gather out there? And is that information helpful? Many of them are graduates, but they don't have jobs. So then how do we then help them to be able to start, to be entrepreneurs, to start something from small instead of waiting to the time you'll get a job and a higher job, maybe a job that is well paying. So with the experience I've gained from this program, I'm very sure I'll approach my politics differently, more mature, with more information. And also I've learned to research and also to compare what other countries are doing. Looking at even the UN and how things are done. So I'm able to tap more, and now also my networks are broader. So I'll know who to talk to. Sometimes, we rely on the government so much. We're asking, and then how can we get to the government? But there is also other partners that we can partner with, and you can have a program that you can champion, and especially that one for young people. When we did the Nyota program that the government has done, of course, many young people are left out. And so the bigger question is, how do we then reach out to those? Which are those partners that we can look up to, and we can work together and improve the lives of these young people? So to me, it's going to be a different year. As women, I think we are more human. Women are more human than men. What I've seen in this space of political space, there's a lot of ego and a lot of, manpower. There's a lot of rubbing of shoulders and people coming out there. But at the end of the day, you find women, we are emotional, which is not a wrong thing, it's a good thing. Because that emotional bit makes us human. So if you are given money to manage, you will not mismanage. You are not going to take that money and channel it to other areas where you have children who cannot go to school. So I think one of the strongest things that we have as women, being that we are mothers, being that we birth, we nurture. That nurture and that motherliness that we have makes us human. That emotional connection makes us better leaders. And I'm sure, and I will repeat it again 1,000 times, the minute we'll have a woman as a president of this country, things will change. Because men sometimes they want to say, prove a point. It's called chest thumping. There's a bit, you can't do that to me, I can also prove a point. But for women, sometimes you reflect and say, for the sake of the nation, for the sake of the people, I think I'll not go through this. Even if I wanted to prove a point to someone, you can allow them to just be, so that you get focused. And that nurture, the motherly bit of a woman, makes them a stronger and a better leader. To CPST, the McGill, the Canadian, and actually even the National Assembly, everybody, thank you so much. For my colleagues, congratulations. We started, many of us, not all of us finished. But the fact that you are graduating today, well done, well done, well done. And to many more. We are looking forward for more programs, and I can't wait to join the next one.
My name is Beatrice Elachi, a member of Parliament of Dagoretti North and the Deputy Chair of the Kenya Women Parliamentarian Caucus, KEWOPA. Just want to thank you and to thank CPST for this interview. For me, I think the most important thing, first of all, through CPST is that we've walked a journey, and for many of us is when we come into Parliament as women, our focus mostly is always, yes, you work for everyone, but I won't lie that we are normally biased, because we would want to see more young women being empowered, more young women being educated. And for me, I always tell young women and girls that your first husband is education, because education will never divorce you. And so you take care of yourself, you get good education, you will find a better place in your life. Capacity building is one thing. Even us, even me, And that's why we go through these trainings, is to build that capacity. Because for us, without having that empowerment, even to yourself, you'll find yourselves with a lot of challenges. You find yourself, many things are happening nowadays. People are more advanced, people are more informed. And so you need to just build your capacity every given time to move. Yeah. First of all, we have to engender our own parliament in terms of our policies, in terms of the different motions that we bring in terms of laws. But more importantly, is that gender equality is not just about equality, it's about equity. And that's where both of us come in to complement each other. And so I always tell people it's not about men or women. It's about how do you complement each other to develop a society, a community, a family as you walk in. I think as we move into the new CBC system, in terms of gender equality, is to ensure that you find that when we start school, we are at the same par. When we get to the first exams that we do, let's say to junior secondary, you realize girls you start losing out and you're wondering where are they. And so one of the things we just need to ensure, first of all, is look at the curricula. A curricula which I know many people find CBC, they feel it's not. For me, it's the right for the path of today. That our young people, if you are able to bring out your talent, bring out your skill, and I know the young girls have developed different skills nowadays. In fact, they are doing better until we are like, okay, where is the boy child? And what is happening on this boy child? And so for me, the CBC system, we must ensure it is a system that brings in both boys and girls to understand what is your strength in what you do. And it's not about, it's practical. And so let's help them and build that capacity for them and ensure that this curricula will enable them to work in the modern life that we have today. A very fast life and a very challenging life, but I'm hoping it can help every child. I would say I have walked a journey with that. For the many years that I have, education is my key pillar. And so I have students that I walk a journey with. What I have done, my best students, even now when you go to my office, you'll find them. So we sort of walk a journey with them, do a career building with them, and more importantly, get to understand. So it's not just about education, but just to understand the wholesome of this person, their way of life, some of the challenges they face that can hinder them to achieve even their own life. And each child gives you their story, and you bring in friends who can come and support it. So I have a girls' school called Lavington Girls that I have walked a journey. I'm proud to say this year at least none of the girls was pregnant when they were doing exams, because it's been a big challenge. So that is one achievement. We've said hallelujah. And so the boys' school that I work with is State House Boys. The names are very big, but the children that you find there are children from very, very vulnerable backgrounds, humble backgrounds, children who have their stories in Kibera, in Kawangware, in Korokocho, but they are good. They are living, and you can see. I know most of them are going to pass this year, and I pray to God that I'll see these young girls move to the level I am.
My name is Tabitha Mutinda. I'm a nominated senator in the 13th Parliament. I serve as the Vice Chair of Finance and Budget, and also a member of the Health Committee, and recently appointed as a board member of IMF and World Bank. I'm also the president of World Parliamentary Scout Association. I always believe in learning. Gaining knowledge and skills is a continuous process. As a leader and in the space that I am, representing women and girls countrywide, of course, with a special seat elect, then I really wanted to have more knowledge in terms of matters gender-based violence, matters equality, and how to have these discussions much better and how to better our policies moving forward. First of all is on the areas to enhance in terms of the loose ends within our laws, how to strengthen the policies that are existing, because you find that we have the policies in place, but we're still having the issues of GVV still in place and much more persistent. And with what we were able to learn at McGill, we were able to identify most of the gaps that are in place, and we are at a better place on much more focusing on how to bridge the gap that is currently in place. Yes.
What message would you give to young women aspiring to be in leadership roles just like you?
First of all, I would, be very happy to see them just having the thought of it. That's one step to believing. They say a journey of 1,000 miles begin with one step. The thought of your mind is the direction to achieving your dreams. And I would really, really encourage them to take up the leadership roles. Anybody can be in these spaces. Anybody can do it if we are in these spaces. And for me personally, I'll always thank our president, Dr. William Ruto, because as my party leader, he believed in us, many of us, and I'm among them, and he's been able to give us this platform. So anybody can be in these spaces. You just need to believe in yourself and have a focus of what you really want to achieve. In one word, for me, would be transformative. In three perspectives, to be brief. One of it is a personal perspective. I've gained more skills and knowledge on how to have more discussions when it comes to the issues of women and the girls. What is really coming out is we need to have a conversation with one another. It doesn't mean because I'm a legislator, all I need to do is put up laws without really knowing how to engage with the girls and the women. The other issue is the community also. Transformation whereby the community is able to come off the norms, the culture that has really been embedded so much, such that people have held so strong to these cultures, and that's why still we have some of these challenges that we have. And lastly, the system, the policies that are in place, the laws that are now in place, we are able to transform and fill the gaps. For me, is let us continue championing matters GBV. Let us keep on championing, supporting the young girls. As Kenya Women Senators, we've really gone to the ground. We've really been able to do the empowerment programs in the different counties. More specific was Busia, where we went for Senate Mashinani, and also recently in Bungoma, we met young girls as young as 10-year-old with a small baby, as young as a 12-year-old having undergone GBV. This is a conversation as women leaders we need to come together, because one common denominator is that we are the Kenya women leaders, and the young women are really looking upon us to become the change makers. We can only achieve that if we enhance teamwork.
My name is Martha Wangari. I am a member of parliament for a constituency known as Gilgil. Gilgil is in Nakuru County. I am also one of the beneficiaries of affirmative action, because I came to parliament through a nominated seat that is in the Senate, in the 11th parliament, that enabled me to also run for election. So I've been elected twice, now doing a third term in parliament. I am also from one of the counties that have elected women quite historically, and We are now holding the #1 in terms of women representation by having 4 members of parliament in the National Assembly. That is a single member constituencies. We also have a women senator and we have a women governor. So we are doing very well in terms of setting the pace for women in this country. As we celebrate or commemorate these 16 days against GBV, I would say it is one of the biggest issues that we are dealing with in this country. I mean, the statistics that we have gotten even from the police have been very alarming. If you remember, I think sometime last year, we had lost quite a number of women within 3 months in terms of those Airbnbs, killings, and almost always by intimate partners. That also includes children, and I would like to include them in that fight. And if you ask me, we have a serious problem in terms of the implementation of the laws, because we already have the law in place. In this country, the law is not a problem, but the implementation. So we have the Sexual Offences Act, which is very thorough in terms of ensuring that women get justice in terms of gender-based violence. But most of the time, the handling of evidence, if you take it to court, the policemen mishandle it, the prosecution mostly dismiss those cases out of lack of evidence. The other gap I've seen, and I've been very vocal about it in Parliament, is the issue of what we call forensic collection of evidence. Because not many counties, including Nakuru, which is a city, have an area where you can send DNA testing and get the results. I'll give you an example. In 2023, a girl in my constituency known as Jasmine Joki was murdered, raped and murdered. She was a 12-year-old girl. She was coming from school. She was raped and murdered. And we took a whole 6 months. It took me to come to this floor of the house to request for the DNA to be done. The samples that were taken had to be taken to Kisumu from Nakuru or Nairobi. So you queue for a whole year. And because that is an area where people don't have a lot of profit in terms of deals and money, it is not prioritized, if you ask me. So reagents have to be gotten from South Africa to test. So one of the issues I've seen, and maybe something I'll do legislatively, is to ensure that every county has at least one forensic or diagnostic center where you can test DNA so that we can nab culprits. Otherwise, they go to court. Nowadays, it's almost every criminal offense is bailable. They come back to the society. So they come and taunt even the victims of the families of the victims. So I would say that is, for me, one of the major problems. But recently, during the Jukwaa la Usalama, whose report was presented to the president, I think yesterday, that issue also came up. Those kangaroo courts have also contributed quite a big deal in subverting justice for victims of GBV. Because most of the time, the people who do these things or engage in GBV are intimate partners or family members. So you'll find a girl has been defiled by an uncle. They don't want to embarrass the church. We are church members. They will say, let us sit under a tree and agree. They will loop in the chief or the elders, and that case dies. And now what the president said yesterday, if it is implemented, we'll have a breakthrough, because he said you cannot withdraw. A case now becomes a property of the state. You cannot say I've withdrawn as a parent, because we even have parents of the victims collaborating with the people who have done the GBV or have attacked the victim. So I hope that can be implemented. As I said earlier, the problem is never the law or the declaration. It's about putting our money where our mouth is. Of course, women and girls, that is to start, but I would say children in general. I saw a report, I think, a few days ago that Kuresoi, I think one of the Kuresois in Nakuru, had a lot of abused children, even by their parents. You'll find a stepfather collaborating with the mother or something like that to beat children, in terms of even killing some of them. We've seen such cases. So I think the protection must come for children and of course women, because at the end of the day, the women still make the biggest numbers of statistics in terms of GBV, if you compare. I mean, out of 10, maybe only 2 or 1 will be a man. So I think girls and women still have a long way to go in terms of getting that protection. And if we tighten the law and the evidence collection, because if you don't make it a deterrent, then it will be business as usual. So for me, the handling of the case right from the start, if there's a defilement, if there's an assault, when you go there to take a P3 form from the police, how do they handle it? And I would say that because even at the police stations, we said we have a gender desk. But what does that mean? I would say, like in my constituency, I'm doing a children's office, because sometimes you want to report a case discreetly. There is an officer, yes, but you are sitting next to the OCS, you're sitting next to the next officer, you cannot even be free to give the privacy. So maybe the collaboration between members of parliament, because through even NGCDF, it's allowed to deal with security matters, maybe we can create safer spaces for reporting, then ensure that we have a lot of training for the policemen and women, because they are the first contact on the ground to ensure that that is collected. And also the liaison between the hospital and the police. Because when you are raped or defiled, like the cases we've seen, like recently there was a video, I don't know how authentic it is, of a gang rape in Meru, and I've seen some who have been arrested today, 6 suspects. At that point, that girl would first of all report to the hospital nearby for treatment. So that collaboration, the police must collect evidence at that point. So that training, so that we don't kill cases, so that we have prosecution and we have convictions. Otherwise, all the cases go to some point, then they are dropped because of lack of evidence. I would say that program was quite an eye-opener. Of course, it was not easy for many of us because it needed a lot of commitment, but the exposure we got from the trainers all the way from different parts of this world, to say, not just in this country, was that matters women, we are dealing with the issues every day, every corner of this world. And women have always suffered, not just in the workplace, but even in parliaments in the world. We've seen former members of parliament, even in Canada, talk about the mental stability, mental health, having to deal with children and having to deal with childbearing when you're still in parliament. So those safe spaces can only be advocated if we have some numbers in parliaments where we have more women that are able to ensure that these issues are advocated for. I say that because I would say in this parliament, I'm the poster girl for having children in parliament, because I joined with a 2-month-old baby, and that time in 2013, there was no one to even facilitate you. If you're going for orientation in Mombasa, nobody cared how you go with your baby. I had to pay for my nanny, I had to pay for my baby, and ensure, and I remember I used to go out, breastfeed, come back to the meeting, and it looked very out of place, because they used to call me Senator Wamtoto, and I needed to tell them I am breastfeeding my son for 6 months, and it became a thing. So in this parliament, we were able to advocate in the Parliamentary Service Commission to have women, not just members of parliament, but also staff, because our demographics are changing. We are having younger and younger women being employed in parliament, being elected. Toto was 23 years. So they are continually getting younger and younger. Unless we get women who have gone through it in those spaces, it doesn't change. So I can tell you, if it took PSC that long, up to 2013, to have a policy in place for safe breastfeeding spaces for women, what happens then to other employers, to civil service? That has to be cascaded all that to those levels. And I've seen that bearing fruits. We now have a breastfeeding bill by Honorable Sabina from that experience. So I would say having more women in decision-making areas and tables is very important to bring change globally. We have a multiple role. One is our major role in terms of legislation. I have seen a lot of even amendments. Now there are proposals on the floor on Sexual Offences Act, because we are also having issues of boys having sex with girls their age, but they are also being jailed and the girls are left. So some of those imbalances, to ensure that girls and boys have the same treatment as children to start with before they are treated as criminals, because it is easier to rehabilitate than to commit them to the criminal justice system. So I would say we have the role on legislation, anything that we can do to ensure that there are harsher consequences, it is up to us. Secondly, we have the role of representation, and in that we are able to also hype this and bring them on the floor. It is very easy for us to get, because people don't give statistics very easily. Even the police and the IG, it is for us and the police service to ask, out of the cases that were filed this year or last year or in this period, how many have been taken to the conclusion? And we can be able to bring these people to task. Considering under Article 125, we have the powers of the High Court, we can summon anyone. And I think the collaboration and the synergy between the National Police Service, between the DPP, and between the and also the judiciary, so that we ensure consequences are implemented and cases are seen to the end. We also have the role of advocacy, because if you keep quiet, and I remember sometime last year or this year, we had some program, actually supported by the president, to go around and do forums around the counties and the constituencies where specifically are represented by women. So we had the women reps do something, we had us in the single member constituencies do something, and you look at your area. Like myself, I know I looked at an area which is very controversial. I looked at being our corridor, being a transit corridor, areas like Mahiu, Gilgil in Kikope. If you go to Sachangwan, Salga, you'll get where there are trucks that park. There's a lot of sexual exploitation that goes on there. So we were able to bring over almost 1,000 of some of the people who are considered sexual workers and train them. Because if you look at the statistics recently, even HIV prevalence has gone so high, has gone high for the last 2 years, specifically in the younger people bracket. So that advocacy is still very important, and it's not something we can do in a day. And I say it's not just about girls, even boys, because we have a lot of abuse that is quieted, that is not reported, and to get them safe spaces to bring out those issues is also, I would say, our job as legislators. The program was quite an eye-opener, and there are many areas that we were able, even in our individual work plans, that we were able to identify in terms of doing something about it. I know there's a lot of anti-SGBV that is going on with many members, but one area that was specific for me is the matter of housing. Like now, the government is doing a lot of affordable housing, social and otherwise, and getting that data is not easy. So for me, is to get segregated, sex-segregated data, how many women are able to own those houses. Because even land ownership in this country and capital, we are still less than 5% owned by women. And that means even in terms of running for elections, how many women can be able to support a campaign and run? They are usually very few, because access to capital, access to money and empowerment is not as much as it is with the men. So getting that data to make it normalized, that anything you're doing, can you follow the constitution, that not more than 2/3 goes to the same gender. So I would say the issue of housing for me, of course the issue of forensic laboratories in every county. I've also picked the issue of identity. Recently, my bill went through third reading. It's waiting for assent. And if you listen to the president in the Jukwaa la Usalama report, the issue of small things like birth certificates. Women are struggling. You have 5 children. You cannot get a birth certificate. You get a whole county like Mandera having one. And yet the kilometers you actually travel are crazy. You need a birth certificate when you need a passport. You need a birth certificate when you need a name is number to enroll to grade 1. And you need a death certificate in case of a death of a loved one in succession battles. Small things like those, Kenyans have been struggling. So right now, we've already passed in every sub-county, we have at least one registration office. So that for me is also very important in terms of the SDGs, leaving no one behind, so that all our members in the community, we can work together and ensure that everyone gets the rights as they're given by the Constitution.
My name is Agnes Kavindu Mudhama, the Senator for Machakos County, and of course, Senator for Kenya. And this is my second term elected as a Senator in Machakos, as a woman, which I'm very proud of. And I am a strong advocate of gender equality, social justice, and protection for vulnerable groups, including women, girls, and persons living with disability. In my work as a legislator and a member of various committees, I am committed to ensuring that the laws, policies, and institutional reflect fairness, dignity, and equal opportunities for all Kenyans. Well, it was wonderful. This program has been truly informative. It has deepened my understanding of gender positive, responsive governance, particularly the practical tools and institutional strategies needed in mainstreaming gender across legislative oversight and parliamentary culture. The session have strengthened my capacity to use gender analysis and legislative work, which are also some of the gaps that are there. Legislative work, there are gaps there, identifying systematic gaps in the parliamentary environment, and engaging more effectively in stakeholders, including civil society and marginalized groups. We are also committed to do something about the schools. You know, these days we have a lot of pregnancies, young girls' pregnancies, the triple threat. It's really bad. The other day we went to Busia, Bungoma, and 50 girls had fallen out of school due to pregnancies, and there are a lot of HIV and AIDS and all this. And so we want to see how we can work even also with the schools, communities, and to integrate and internationally also the practices that are used internationally, we bring them to local so that we can see how to go about everything. Overall, the programs has sharpened both my technical skills and strategic visions. As we are in the 16th period of 16 days, or as we are in the 16th period of 16 days of activities against GBV, I feel especially equipped to address economic violence against women. I'm actually a victim. I was kicked out of my home, matrimonial home, without a single thing. I walked just empty-handed. And so I feel so much that there are gaps in the law for women, especially women who are not bringing home a payslip, who don't have a payslip, but they contribute through childbirth, working in that home and taking care of that home when this man is out there. So there is a gap in that law, and I strongly feel that we will do something to amend the law for those such vulnerable women to be able to be included in their matrimonial property. That law is there, but there's a gap because they count it in monetary gaps. So those monetary gaps is what we want to come in so that her working in the home and even childbirth and everything that she does in that home can be counted as monetary. And when divorce comes, that woman can be compensated and get a 50-50 share with this man, because we have so many of them. How many women are working in Kenya? Even worldwide, how many women work? How many women do business? There are so many of them who are just at home, working at home. You see? Yeah. And so, by so doing, I intend strongly to check on the gap in the law so that lack of recognition for women's unpaid care work and financial dependency that traps many women in abusive relationships. And strengthen the laws in Matrimonial Property Act, advocate for recognition for non-monetary. That's what I've explained in length. And then push for the gender positive budgeting at the national and county levels, promote policies and enhance women economic autonomy. Economically, empowerment is a powerful driver of safety, dignity, and freedom for women and girls. Even as we handle the triple threat, the new HIV and AIDS for young people and young women, adolescent pregnancies, and gender-based violence. Even in schools, they are there. And we tend to think it's only boys and girls who engage in this. There are even grown-up people who are really involved in these children. In that school, we were told that there's a girl who is 24 years old and she's already a grandmother. 24-year-old. So you can imagine Aliza akiwa miaka ngapi, when did she give birth? And when did the girl also give birth to be a grandmother at 24? I mean, this is something that we should really work on. Going forward, I intend to use my voice more strategically and more boldly, not only to influence legislation, but also to push for structural reforms within Parliament itself. I will champion gender-responsive policies and audit, advocate for more inclusive parliamentary environment. We are very few. Like at the Senate, we are only 3 elected women who are elected. So we are going to push for more elective positions for women from grassroots, MCRs, MPs, Senate, governors, and president. Yes, it is possible, it is doable. Elevate survivor centers, approaches in GBV interventions, mobilize fellow legislators, county leaders, and community groups to prioritize gender equality. My voice will not only highlight gender gaps, it will drive solutions, coalitions building, and sustainable action for gender.
My name is Senator Veronica Maina. I'm a senator in the Republic of Kenya from Murang'a County, nominated by the UDA party, that's the ruling party. I'm the former Secretary General of the ruling party, and I've had an opportunity to be a Secretary General in 2 ruling parties, the previous ruling party, Jubilee Party, and the Kenya Kwanza. So the question of women and empowerment is very dear and close to my heart. The training by McGill University, the Gender Empowerment and Women Empowerment course, Gender Equality and Women Empowerment course, was very important because it gave me a dimension on how we can engender our legislation and how we get to mainstream gender within the legislative agenda and even in the oversight function to ensure that women are not being left behind. You know, the SDG number 5 is on gender equality. And if you recall the history of gender equality in Kenya and gender equity in Kenya, we have had a challenge. The challenge being that Parliament has not complied with the 2-third gender framework that is offered in the Constitution. And as a result, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And you know, when you live in Nairobi, you can think that women are empowered across the whole country. But that's not the case, because we see the women who come on TV, and then we hear, oh, the girl child is overtaking the boy child. But you just need to take a drive or a walk 1-2 kilometers away from Nairobi, and then you now come face to face with the reality of the ordinary woman in the Republic of Kenya. They need a lot of work to be done for them to be empowered, both in governance sector, in the public sector, in the public space, and even in private space, in the private sphere. If you look at issues of SGBV. Women are very disproportionately affected. If you look at issues of ownership by women, you find they are holding a very small percentage of the titles in Land's office, maybe under 6%. If you look at financial inclusion, women don't have titles to secure credit. So there are many issues that women are still lagging behind. And then you look at issues of even reproductive rights. We still have many women dying at childbirth, shockingly. In fact, shocking numbers have now shown that a lot of mothers have lost their lives as they were giving birth, which I think is something that needs to really be worked on. And then just the other day, yesterday was the World AIDS Day, and on Sunday we had a race, one goal, to end HIV/AIDS by 2030. When you look at the statistics, you'll find that women are still disproportionately affected. So there are many areas, many gaps that need to be closed on matters women and on matters women equality, gender equality. One of the ways that we can strengthen support is to do legislative frameworks that allow women to access credit without the need for collaterals that are heavy in titles, you know, in ownership of land, immovable property, because not many women own it. So when a bank says for you to get this facility to be able to do your business, then you need to have a title that can be charged or mortgaged, something that can be mortgaged. Women don't own a lot of those titles, so we should have a different framework. And I like what the SME, the small banks, the microfinance banks are doing. They can take in a woman's ownership of household effects and use charter system to allow women to access credit. We must be innovative. And then women have a very heavy trust factor when it comes to the merry-go-rounds. Now, the merry-go-rounds, women honor their obligations in finance. If you find, I was looking at Uwezo Fund, and we found that over 98% of the fund was paid back. If you look at that, it means that you can actually entrust women with credit, even minus the collateral, and the money will be repaid. Actually, the people who default is men, because, you know, they will pick big finance, and then, you know, they don't have the same care mode. You know, women have the care mode. They don't want to be charged. They don't want to be told they are criminals. Just reputation and what people think about them, it makes them keep integrity more in finance. So we need to look at frameworks that affirm the women, you know, so that they can borrow without having to look for titles. Because if you ask us to look for titles, we wouldn't have titles for this. But yet women can trade, and they are effective, and they bring value proposition to the table. So I believe it's something we need to do to just help those groups become more formalized. Like I have a group in Kegumo, in Muranga, they are basket weavers. Now, a bank should look at those groups because they've now registered themselves. Look at a group of 200 women and see that if they afford some materials for them, they are able to get baskets which they can push to the market. Once they show that capacity, they should be trusted and allowed to trade. To me, a woman who is empowered, you will see by how her lifestyle changes, how her family lifestyle changes. Because what women do is that when they have money, then you'll find her children are going to school. They're able to pay their share or pay their medical covers. They're able to buy food. They're able to have a balanced diet at home. The children are going to school. You'll find women are so centered on the family unit. So when you find a strong family unit, you know there is an empowered woman behind that. Because sometimes you can even find a family unit where the men are empowered, and I mean, yeah, the men are empowered, but the translation to making it better for the family is not as good as when the women are empowered. Because you'll find there are many cases, if you go to the children's court, there are many cases of fathers having to be forced to pay school fees for the children, to do this. And it's not all fathers who are like that. I mean, many of us have come from a background where even if our fathers were not that well-to-do, they were responsible. And we must hail the men and applaud those that have been responsible. But when you see a woman empowered, you'll find she's taking care of her immediate family, she's taking care of her mother. I think of my mom, and I mean, my budgets have to be around her, and my dad, and my sisters, and my brothers. There is just an attachment of many other relationships that must work, and people who must be empowered equally. So when you empower a woman, you've empowered a community. And I believe this course has helped us to become better in representing women within the legislative framework and the legislative agenda, within the representation agenda. And it's given us an opportunity to say, even how do you engender the budget? How do you mainstream gender issues within budget? Because if we don't do that, the women will still be left behind. And the only way to really speak of engagement is when we are able to roll out a policy that affects, many women, not just a small section or a certain group of women. It's only policy that can fully, truly transform a nation. So for the women to be truly transformed in Kenya, policy is so important. The legislative framework is so important because when you roll out at county level and you roll out at national level. So, and when you talk like an issue of maternal health and infant mortality, the only way to impact and affect such gaps is to ensure that there is policy inbuilt within the health system, the healthcare system. So you cannot do without some form of capacity building that helps the legislators to know how they pull the women within the mainstream of economy, within the mainstream of other rights that they need to achieve, and also realizing that women are human beings. Sometimes when we sometimes actually discuss women in isolation of the human being, sometimes people might forget we are talking about the same human being who is in the Constitution. But the point is, we are saying, let the system not be patriarchal, even if the laws may be a bit patriarchal because majority of the legislators are men, but we must have an inclusive dialogue that brings along all the genders, brings along all other vulnerable persons, so that we can then say we have holistic and sustainable development. 2025.
Yeah.
It's progressive. It's progressive. We still have not attained it, but we are walking the journey. We are walking the journey. We haven't attained it yet, and we must strive to attain it.
My name is Irene Mayaka. I am a nominated member of parliament, nominated by the ODM party on behalf of workers. And I am also the chair of the Committee on Regional Integration in Parliament. Of the fundamental lessons that I would pass on to women is, number one, because before we started the program, there was the assumption about what gender is and what drives gender conversations. But through the program, I came to learn that gender is not just about women in politics or an equalization factor, but it's also about the aspect of budgeting around gender issues. It's also the aspect around understanding where the fight and the urge to have more women in the political space started from. And it's also about the accountability in terms of where are we in this particular fight, where we are right now. So the important lessons I'd pass to young women and other leaders on this is understanding the background of why we are where we are, understanding the background of why it is important to understand all aspects and issues surrounding gender issues, for them to be able to really be passionate and really give leadership opportunities their all, because now they know that they're not just there for the sake of it. Yeah.
So how can Parliament build a stronger pipeline for young female leaders?
I think Parliament can create a strong pipeline, number one, through ensuring that there's tracking that is happening. Not the assumption that because you have women in the leadership space, that's good enough. What we need to do is ensure that there's actually proper tracking in terms of what value are these women adding. And for us to be able to even encourage more women to get into this space, that tracking has to be seen. Yeah? And by tracking, I mean in terms of legislative work, I mean in terms of the work that you do with the community, the work that you do out there in the society, and the mentorship as well. So there needs to be proper tracking so that anyone who comes in
can feel like they're coming into a family, so to speak, and a family that is ready to embrace and ready to work together and ready to ensure that women leadership is actually a purpose-led type of leadership. My message to young girls aspiring to go into politics is, number one, politics is not for the faint-hearted. I will not lie to them about that. But also that it's very important for you to get into that space and add value. Don't be part of the statistics. Come in and add value. Come in and remember that for you to even get to a point where you're adding value, you have to take your work seriously. Legislation also requires work. It requires a lot of studying. It requires a lot of knowledge gathering. I'm one person who actually believes that, just as J.F. Kennedy once said, that leadership and learning is inseparable to each other. You cannot be in this space if you're not hungry for knowledge, you're not hungry to ensure that you're adding value. And also don't wait until you're old, because there are people who say they'll get into politics when they are retired. I mean, I left a very good job in the banking industry. I was a senior manager in the banking industry to join politics because I felt like I needed to get into a space where I'm actually adding value and I have an opportunity to make laws that add value. So just to encourage young women, you know what, this is a space that is, it's as fulfilling as it is to men as it is to women as well. So I come from a constituency that is very patriarchal, naturally in its nature. But I work a lot with young women. I work a lot with older women as well, in groups and all that. And some of the things that I learned, like for example, budgeting around gender mainstreaming, promoting and supporting women groups. I also believe that, for example, and I like using this example because it's very fundamental, that you'll find that young girls get drawn into teenage pregnancy and being waylaid because of simple things like, I don't have money for pads. So if a young man or a boarded rider offers me money for pads, then I feel like I need to pay him. Yeah, I need to pay him with my body just because I don't have any other way. And also for the women who they don't have any source of income, and they feel like, you know, let my daughter get married off quickly so that they can make money. So it's a sense of, let's empower the older women and the younger women for them to also understand that being empowered and being financially capable and having knowledge is very important, because it enables you to have the willpower to say no when you should say no, and not feel like when I'm saying no, I'm actually I'm making the male gender feel like I'm not being a woman, you know, I'm not giving myself. So a lot of the learnings that I did get from there is basically about that, empowering and letting the women from where I come from to know that they also have the ability to make decisions on their own. One thing that I believe in, and that's because when I joined politics, even on a voluntary basis, I joined politics from the angle of a political party. And the structures around political parties, I mean, I'm biased to ODM because I'm a member of ODM, and the structures that we had in the Youth League were very proper because I had the advantage of being trained, capacity building on leadership, political knowledge. I mean, I went for IVLP, I went for ICLD, very many numerous politically inspired programs as a young person that sort of shaped me to get into this space. So mine is to encourage young people, if you want to participate in politics, find a political party that aligns to your beliefs and your values, and then grow in that space. Yeah, because then again, you also have an opportunity to have an anchor or to have, so to speak, a mentor who can shape your political journey. First of all, to my other women colleagues who've not had an opportunity to go through this GEWE program, is to encourage them to do the program, because we learned a lot of things that probably out there you would never know about. And also just to encourage even anyone else who is in the political space, there's one thing called knowledge that no one can take away from you. So let's take advantage of the programs we are offered by CPST, all these programs that you can have access to, because they help you to learn, they help to shape your legislative work as well, and they help to also make you a legislator that adds value. So for me, it's just to encourage everyone, fellow legislators, join these programs, study more. I would love to do another program if they are available. Yeah, and let's make our parliament greater.
My name is Senator Hamida Kibwana, nominated senator with ODM. I'm a member of about 3 committees, one trade committee, health committee, and public investment committee. I'm chairperson emeritus of KEWOSA, Kenya Women Senators. I play, right now, I play a big role internationally. I'm in steering committee of the Unite, that is with the Health Global. I play part of the WHO International again, then also in the IMF. I have a role to play, so I focus on both Kenya and of course internationally. Right now I would say GBV, gender-based violence. And of course, you know, it's all related to femicide. That's a big challenge for now. But also mental health for the young people, for the youth. And when you talk about gender, I always include it's all inclusive. It's both male and female. And this mental health is quite real. Why do we have the GBV? It's because of the mental health. But then at the same time, unemployment, you know, the youth struggling to get jobs. And so I feel strongly that when you're hungry, then you're angry. And that's what relates to GBV. And also, I think we've given a lot of time and maybe so much space for girl child that, you know, the boy child actually, you know, has been left to struggle for themselves. So I feel strongly that also we need to make up to the boy child. One, I would like to thank the CPST. And I feel that we need to make use of it more than what we have done so far. One, graduating yesterday, of course, I feel quite honored. It wasn't also an easy thing because we had to balance. In fact, for me, it was even worse because at the same time, I'm doing my master's on project planning. So imagine I had to balance between parliament, my university, my master's class, and you know, the GEWE, of course, program. It wasn't easy. But however, I feel that we have triumphed, and I hope that we shall walk the talk of this program and do some implementation. We always look upon donor countries to support us on such, you know, like, oh, we have GBV, we have whatever. So we only look for donors to support us. But then how do we, you know, internally see how we can get to this? You know, how do we also persuade the government to support this program? And it can only be done, of course, when working on policies and you know, legislation, so that we can embed this program. By the way, I have a bill on GBV. I'm really hoping by next year I'll, you know, hit the ground running. So I thought that is one thing. We don't have a bill on GBV, and yet we are there, you know, running around talking about GBV. So if you don't, you know, if there's no bill that shall be, you know, you understand, legislate, then how do we, you understand, how do we eradicate or work on it, you know, on gender? So I'm quite keen on this one, and I'm hoping the bill shall come to the light of day, that it's going to support all this in terms of legislations and policy. As also Kenya women senators, I think we've been trying, and there are programs that have been enrolled on women.
in terms of training, capacity building actually, on members of county assembly, women members county assembly. And we've done that in many, in fact, I think about 6 or 7 county assemblies. And the other day, when the Kewasa team was in Busia, they took them through, the same kind of capacity building. We realized there's so much low understanding of what, the MCAs are supposed to do or work on. Especially, for example, the motions and the statements and the bills. Do they know how to create the statements, or rather the motions, and what bill are they pursuing? So that's the kind of capacity building we've been working on. And I'm really hoping that is one of them. And we, at times, I don't even know where we get the funding as Senate. And Senate, we oversight. And we just trigger. And the other time, we've been contributing ourselves to have these programs. And for example, imagine taking sanitary, to schools, mentoring schools and colleges. And especially, I am in Catholic University, and I've organized in February for the whole university, both male and female, we'll be doing a program on this one, on GBV. So I'll be enlightening them, and I've invited all senators to come and join us on this. So let us not wait for donors to come. Let us see how we can create, anything just to support on these programs. It doesn't take a lot of funding or, logistics, whatever. But then it's just about bringing, the youth or the Kenya people together. And this GBV thing and whatever, it doesn't just sit on the youth, but also our age still go through, the same, they require the same kind of support. Or for example, GBV, like in my thesis, I was looking at Kilifi County. I'm doing research on Kilifi County. And Kilifi County, you even see incest, early marriages and the rest, And so it turns out, of course, to be GBV and femicide. But then it starts with your own, from your own family, in your own homestead. So I'm really hoping that once we have this bill, then everything, most of the things will be sorted out. But I really want to thank CPST with this GEWE program. It was such an eye-opener, and I'm sure I will implement what I have learned, and I will walk the talk.
My name is Senator Esther Okenyuri Nyaituga Anyeni. I'm a young legislator, currently the Vice Chairperson of the Senate Trade, Industrialization and Tourism Committee. I'm also a member of the Finance and Budget Committee of the Senate. And in Parliament, I've actually engaged in so much to do with representation, oversight, and legislation. Most notable is that we passed the Protection of Livelihood Bill at the Senate, which I'm sponsoring. It's now gone to the National Assembly. If it passes through that stage, it will be signed into law by the President. First, in the space we are in politics, we are engaged in so much. So setting away time to engage in this program actually brought in some kind of discipline and sacrifice, because I really had to balance between so many things for me to undertake these classes. So generally, it strengthened my bit as a legislator, especially in balancing between policy, oversight, and how they actually intersect, especially to do with real life situations here that women undergo on a daily basis. This was through the action plan we were able to come up with, because in my action plan, I'm able to paint a picture of what it actually entails me in my small way as a specially elected legislator, and how in my small way I'm able to advocate for social justice and women empowerment through that platform. So it's a very insightful 11-week journey I undertook. I have no regrets. I take home so many other lessons. And I am a better person than I was 11 weeks ago. you know, first through the experiential learning we had, because we had an opportunity to listen from other women leaders who are participating in that program. So you're able to see how someone else undertakes their work or whatever activities they're coming up with. And there was the aspect of pushing for gender sensitive bills, which I think most members who have been pushing for bills have not been looking at it from that angle. So that was a very key aspect that I picked from those classes. And I'm looking forward to use the different parliamentary tools to push for, you know, accountability. This is through the very many statements we raise in the House. So the bills we are bringing on board, the motions, all that to push for accountability in women empowerment, social justice, because through statements you can raise maybe there are challenges women are facing in a certain sector in your constituency. Now for my case, I represent women and young people. I can use statements or questions during the Senate question time to seek clarity from the executive or accountability. We can also question on how budgets are being used from the ministry, on whether they are serving the intended purposes and whether we are achieving results, not just activities being undertaken. My wish is that we have more male champions. I would wish to see male legislators in this program so that they see issues from the perspective we are seeing them from, and even if they don't exactly look at them in that manner, they'll have an idea on what it is to be in the space we are thriving in. So my ask is that we have more legislators who are male part of this process, so that it makes it easier even for our agenda to sail in parliament. You know, anytime we talk about gender equality, women empowerment, it always comes out as a war against men. It's not a war against men. We coexist. They are part of our existence. So if we can pull them in, we are good to go. I would really encourage them. In fact, they'd be very lucky, the young women, because you do not have to wait to come to parliament for you to know how to undertake some of the discussions we are having. So I would really encourage, because it's a very productive process. You also get an opportunity for mentorship because you're learning from other members' experiences, and you can directly pick small wins. You know, you do not have to do very big things. It's the small things you do in a big way. For instance, I personally donate books to needy rural schools through SEO Kenyuri Nyaituga Foundation. And through that, I've been able to support so many girls and boys who are studying in rural day schools. And I can always see through, anytime you're doing monitoring and evaluation of the impact it's had, we can see that through the academic results. Anytime they have their regular examinations, you have feedback from the teachers, you have feedback from the community around. And there is no better way to judge success other than such data, which you're getting directly from the stakeholders. So I would really encourage them to come up, take part in this program. Very productive, makes you effective as a legislator and as a young leader. First, like I said, this requires sacrifice. The daily diary of a legislator is quite something, because you have business in the house, you have the community to deal with, you have family, you have so many other things you're doing. But you see, as someone who's advocating for transformative leadership through service, leadership that you can see, I really would wish that they sacrifice, because it's for your own benefit. And when you have the green light that we have, you actually look at issues differently from the way you used to look at them. Ordinarily, we are in a conservative community and society in general. So there are people who would never understand why you need the perspective of women in a certain area. But the moment you undergo this kind of training, you're able to look at issues differently. And you'll never have an issue with having women or men in a certain space. You actually see them as a stepping stone to achieving what you want easily. Even pushing for policies in the executive, pushing for certain kind of benefits in the community. You know you need to convince ordinary mwananchi that this is for your benefit and I need you here because of this and this. We are marking the 16 days of activism on gender-based violence. You know that discussion, and this year's theme is on digital violence. That discussion can never be effective enough if legislators don't look at it from the lenses we are looking at. That's why I would really want to encourage them, because once you get that perspective, you are able to better understand why each and every one of us has a role they play. And it makes it easier for you. You can always take the credit. You know, some would be afraid of maybe smart people taking the credit. You let them do the work. You can take the credit if you wish. But you see, you will have picked so much that is not available. And they also say, I don't know if it's an attitude in Kenya or Africa generally. If you never want people to know something, you put it in books. People don't want to read. We need to have that culture of wanting to find out. Reading and knowledge is a continuous process. Every day you interact with people, every day you read new content, you become a better person when you encompass it with the experiences you have on a daily basis.